Okay, so let's talk about a leadership style that is, frankly, everywhere. And what's wild is it often comes from a good place, but it can be absolutely toxic for a team's culture. It's a pattern that can just grind performance to a halt, and a lot of times nobody even sees it happening until it's way too late. It's funny how a classic line from an 80s movie can just perfectly nail a huge problem in today's workplace. Some leaders are just moving so fast, they're so laser focused on hitting the next number that they completely miss all the good stuff happening right under their noses. Their vision just narrows and narrows until all they can see are the problems. So, just for a second, think about your own career. Have you ever worked for a leader, or hey, maybe you've been this leader, where every single conversation seems to circle back to the same kind of feedback? You know the kind I'm talking about. It sounds a little something like this. The conversation is always about what's wrong. Are the numbers off? You missed the mark again. Here's what you need to fix. Now look, in a vacuum, none of these are terrible things to say. Of course you need high standards. But when this is the only song on the playlist, it just becomes this relentless, negative drumbeat. And that's exactly where the real trouble starts. The source material for this explainer has an absolutely brilliant name for this type of boss: the L-stacking leader. And I just love this metaphor they use. This person is basically a human metal detector, but instead of finding gold, they are perfectly tuned to find one thing and one thing only: mistakes. So what is an L-stacking leader? It's someone who is constantly finding what's wrong. They're just stacking up the L's, the losses, while all the W's, all the wins, just get completely ignored. And to be fair, their heart is usually in the right place. They think they're protecting the company, they think they're driving results. The intention is solid, but the method, well, the method is just deeply broken. And that gets us to the core problem, the big paradox here. A leadership style that's obsessed with not losing actually becomes a losing strategy. It creates this vicious cycle where focusing on failure just guarantees you're going to get more of it. So, what's the real-world damage of this? What's the fallout? Well, it creates a culture of fear. Because when the only time your team hears from you is when something's gone wrong, the entire vibe of the workplace just starts to sour. And that decay happens in 4 stages. First, people just stop taking risks. I mean, why would you stick your neck out if you know it's never going to be good enough? Next, they just stop caring. You start hearing, "it is what it is," a lot more. Then, your best people, your top performers, they quietly start updating their resumes because they want to work somewhere they feel valued. And finally, the people who are left, they just tune you out completely. So what are you left with? It's basically a perpetual nightmare where people dread Monday mornings. All that pressure, with zero positive reinforcement, creates what the source calls a 5-alarm burnout situation. It's a cycle that absolutely demolishes morale and, ironically, destroys the very metrics the leader was so worried about in the first place. But hang on, because this isn't just about feelings or morale. This problem gets way deeper. This leadership style actually infects the core systems your team uses to get work done. Let's break down 3 really painful side effects. First up, you get a massive data overload. For the team, more data suddenly just means more trouble. People feel like they're drowning in spreadsheets that are just 50 different ways of saying they're failing. And this creates a culture of defense, not accountability. Everybody spends their time explaining the numbers instead of actually improving them. The second side effect, nobody trusts the data anymore. In a healthy team, a scoreboard is a tool, right? It's there to help everyone get better. But in an L-stacking culture, that same scoreboard becomes a weapon. It's used to find out who's to blame, so people stop using data to perform and start using it just to survive. And here's the really modern, kind of scary twist. You'd think a cool new technology like AI could fix this, right? Nope. For an L-stacking leader, AI actually makes things way worse. It just automates the negativity, spamming your team with automated performance reports that basically read like an indictment. It just gets better and faster at finding fault, not solutions. Okay, so enough of the doom and gloom. If this leadership style is so broken, what's the fix? The core idea is actually super simple. You can't scale your wins if you never, ever stop to figure out what's working in the first place. And this is the huge mindset shift that has to happen. Being a great leader isn't a choice between having high standards or being positive. It's not one or the other. You can be demanding and encouraging. You can absolutely push for more, while also celebrating the progress your team is making. Just think about it like you're coaching a sports team. Could you imagine a coach trying to build a winning playbook By only showing the team clips of their fumbles and missed shots? No way. Of course, you have to look at mistakes, but that's only half the game. You have to study the wins to understand how to get more of them. So this leaves us to the good stuff, an actual, actionable formula. This isn't about fluff or just being a motivational cheerleader. This is a real framework for building a culture that actually performs at a high level. It's called the R+O+E+S Formula, and it's so simple, but so powerful. You start with R, recognition. Here's what you did well. Then comes O for opportunity. Here's where we missed. Then E for encouragement. Here's why I believe you can nail this. And you finish with S for support. What can I do to help you? Okay, now lean in, because here's the secret sauce. This is a subtle but absolutely brilliant cheat code from the source. Did you notice the language? Recognition is about what you did well. It's specific, it's individual credit. But the opportunities, that's about what we have to improve. That tiny little word change from you to we changes everything. It screams solidarity. It tells your team, hey, we're in this together. Okay, so you see the pattern, and now you have the formula. But how do you actually start to make a change? Like today. Let's talk about your very first move. It really starts with 3 big shifts in your systems. First, start tracking and logging your wins with the exact same discipline you use for your failures. Build a playbook for what works. Second, make what went right a mandatory part of every single meeting agenda. No skipping it. And third, if you're using AI, turn that powerful tool around. Program it to find winning patterns, not just to flag problems. And hey, if you're listening to this and having that, uh-oh, that's me moment, the source actually provides the perfect script to use with your team. Owning it like this, it's incredibly powerful. It shows you're human, and it signals a real change that your team is going to see and respect. So here it is, the challenge. The one thing you can take from this and put into practice immediately. In your very next conversation, for every one thing you point out that isn't working, you have to force yourself to call out one specific thing that is. It's a one-for-one deal. Always start with the good. And that leaves us with one last, pretty provocative question to think about. If your entire leadership system is designed to only measure what's broken, could it be that you are the defect in that system?